Edward stared out of his expansive office window. Below, the city pulsed with life, a symphony of ambition and dreams. His ambition, his dream, a thriving tech company, had become reality. Yet, a gnawing emptiness lingered in his heart. Edward had climbed the ladder of success, but always felt alone at the top. He'd been a boy of 10 when his father, a watchmaker by trade, left without a word. The memories still stung. He buried himself in work, his father's absence a constant shadow. Success had lost its luster. He yearned for a connection he never had. The scent of his father's workshop, a blend of wood and metal, would forever be etched in his memory. His father's calloused hands, rough yet gentle when fixing Edward's toy soldiers, were a phantom touch he craved. Edward had everything money could buy, but it couldn't fill the void. It couldn't buy back time, couldn't rewrite the past. The night shift janitor, a man known simply as Thomas, dusted Edward's office. He was an unassuming figure, his presence as unnoticed as the dust motes dancing in the moonlight. He worked with a quiet dignity, his movements slow and deliberate. Thomas had been with the company since its inception, a silent witness to its meteoric rise. He cleaned Edward's desk, his touch lingering on the framed picture of a younger Edward, a proud graduate. Thomas recognized the picture. He had kept a copy all these years. He missed his son, his own Edward. He often wondered what became of him. He carried the guilt like a stone in his gut, the memory of his hasty departure a constant torment. But Thomas was a man of simple faith. He held on to the hope that someday, somehow, he would see his son again. Edward was working late, reviewing proposals. He glanced up as Thomas entered, his cart squeaking softly. Their eyes met for a fleeting moment, a silent acknowledgement. As Thomas reached for the trash can, Edward noticed it, a wristwatch, its leather strap worn but familiar. The watch face was partially obscured, but Edward would recognize that intricate engraving anywhere. It was his father's watch. "Where did you get that watch?" Edward's voice, usually calm and controlled, was tight with suppressed emotion. Thomas looked up, startled. He fumbled for an answer. "It was a gift," he mumbled. Edward pressed, his heart pounding in his chest. "A gift from whom?" Thomas hesitated, his eyes downcast. "My son," he whispered, his voice heavy with unspoken pain. Time seemed to stand still. Edward's gaze was fixed on Thomas's face, searching for answers, for confirmation. He saw a flicker of his father in the lines around his eyes, in the way he held his shoulders. "What was your son's name?" Edward asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Edward," Thomas replied, meeting his gaze. "He was a good boy. He loved to tinker, to build things." Tears welled up in Edward's eyes, blurring his vision. He knelt before Thomas, his voice thick with emotion. "Dad?" he choked out, the word foreign yet familiar. Thomas's eyes widened in disbelief, his hand trembling as he reached out to touch Edward's face. "Edward, is it really you?" In that one word, years of separation, of unspoken pain and regret melted away. Edward embraced his father, the hug a tangible expression of their reunion. There were questions, explanations, apologies exchanged, but for now, in that moment, all that mattered was that they had found each other. The emptiness that had haunted Edward for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of belonging, of completeness. He vowed to cherish the time he had with his father, to make up for lost years. The city lights outside seemed to twinkle brighter now, reflecting the newfound hope in Edward's heart. He had scaled the heights of professional success, but it paled in comparison to the treasure he had found, his father. Life had thrown a curveball, an unexpected twist of fate, but it had led him home.